I started out in this game as the underperformer. Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast, where we center the stories of Black women as we heal from the painful relationships with our mothers. Sometimes controversial, always compelling, vulnerable, and real. We believe we can only heal the things we named, and if you didn't know, we're all in this together. I'm your host, Jennifer Arnice. So welcome back, everybody. It's probably been about a month since I recorded, and a lot has been going on. Depending on when you listen to this, it's the 1st of June. Well, it's the end of June, actually, by now. And I just launched Resolve, my group course for healing your mother wound. I've got 11 amazing women in there. It has just been so incredible. And now I have some time to focus back on the podcast. So I apologize for my absence. But as you can see, if you're audio, you can't see. If you're on audio, you need to go to YouTube, because guess what? We are now officially a video podcast. Okay. So if you're on the audio, run over to YouTube and subscribe, like, comment, all those good things, because we got a whole new setup going on, and I hope you like it because it's taking a lot of work. But anywho, let's jump right in, shall we? So I think this is a great place to start, because what I'm going to be doing is answering questions from my students and things they've asked me and my clients that I've had over the last couple of months. And so today I really want to talk about, how do you meet the needs that you have that your mother never met? Really, do you realize how many unmet needs that you have? I think if you're listening to me and you're doing this work, then you probably realize what that looks like. So we're going to jump right into that. What are some of the unmet needs that you have? Just so we can all be on the same page. What I had to realize was missing from my life, things I didn't get from my mother or my father, really, were tenderness, patience, grace, understanding, acceptance. Those are right off the top of my head. And when we talk about unmet needs, we're not talking about food, clothing, and shelter, because so often those are the things that we highlight as the things that our parents gave us and that we should be happy for. And I am definitely very appreciative for food, clothing, shelter, education, exposure, safety, and all of those things. But we still have emotional needs. And I think because we think of them as being emotional, we think they're not needs, but they're wants. And we think of a need as something that keeps us alive. But I want you to think about a need as something that also brings value to your life and makes you feel alive, makes you feel like a real person. For so long before I started this healing journey, it may not sound crazy to you because, we all in this shit together. I really was like questioning my existence. Like, am I even here? Because if I was really here, surely someone would see me. Surely somebody would hear me. They would understand me. They would accept me. They would have some type of grace and patience with me if I was really here. And then I had to come to know, yes, I am here. I just don't have a relationship with myself. Remember, healing your mother wound is not about you and your mother. It's about you and you. So it was like tackling those unmet needs. And how do you do that? And my thing is the reparenting process. And how can you be tender with yourself? How can you give yourself those things? And so for me, I've listed them out as, patience, understanding, acceptance, mercy, second chances, warmth. These are the things that we have to have in order to move through life. And what made it hard for me, because this becomes a question too, okay, you know what your unmet needs are. How do you go about giving them to yourself? And for me, the first thing I had to do was get really quiet. When you get quiet, you realize the habits that you have of continuing to abandon yourself, deny yourself. So you're not patient with yourself. It's not that your mother wasn't the only person who didn't give these things to you. As an adult, you don't know how to give them to yourself. So when you're not patient with yourself, you become what? You become hypercritical. You become really judgmental. If you're not understanding of yourself, you think that you should get it right every time. You think you're stupid. You look at everybody else's perspective as being valid. If you don't have grace with yourself, again, this plays into this pressure that we put on ourselves to perform, and we don't trust ourselves. That was an unmet need. Having parents who trusted me, who saw me as someone with integrity, someone who could make good decisions. I had to stop thinking about myself as someone who didn't make good decisions, who couldn't be trusted. Because what did that do? That made me really indecisive. So first, you have to be able to see how these unmet needs are showing up in your life. And a big way they showed up for me, and I think there's two ends to this spectrum. We have our high performers, and then we have our underperformers. I started out in this game as the underperformer. I could not hold down a job. I could always get a job, and I was a great worker, but I never stayed long because I had so many issues with authority, because I thought no one was ever listening to me. I didn't think that anybody thought that what I had to say was important. And sometimes that was true. Those things were happening, but I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I didn't know how to move through the process of having a grievance or picking a good boss or just navigating the corporate world at all, because I was already so triggered and I was already so expecting someone not to be there for me and to be treated unfairly. I was bad with managing my money. I was so anxious. Again, I'm like, how do I do this? Am I doing it right? I didn't have a vision for my life. Everything was very in the moment, because if I was to take the time to look forward, I would be filled with so much anxiety because I didn't think I did a good job. I didn't think I knew what I was doing. I was comparing myself to everybody else. So I thought, oh, what's the point of even doing this? If I was to try something, I didn't think that I would have any support from anyone. I didn't think there were people out there who would even genuinely like me if they really knew who I was. These are the ways that you know that you have unmet needs, right? So if you think about how this might show up in your own life, you're always very giving to others. I know y'all already know what that's about, because you think, well, if people aren't generous with me, maybe I need to be more generous. Maybe it's my fault. That's the thing. If people trusting you, feeling trusted, lets you know that you have a sense of innocence and you're not to blame for how somebody feels or how someone responds. But I didn't have that. So what I really had to do was get honest. I had to get honest about the ways I was treating myself and realize that I was the common denominator. I could blame it on a relationship. I could blame it on a boss. I could blame it on a man. I could blame it on my astrological sign. But at the end of the day, I was the common denominator. And I had to sit there and do the painstaking work of drawing the line from my behavior to what the outcome was. And I just had to keep drawing those lines. Oh, behavior, outcome, behavior, outcome. And with no middleman, nobody else in the middle but me. That in and of itself is challenging because you're already super critical and hard on yourself. So now you like, damn, you really fucked up. You ain't gonna never get this shit right. But then you're like, well, I need someone to show me patience and grace and mercy. How do I hold myself accountable and still give myself patience and grace and mercy? And then you get mad because you're like, why the fuck I got to do all this shit? If she would have just did what she was supposed to do, I wouldn't even be here going through this shit. And it's like a fucking spiral. So the challenge is not staying in the spiral and making the commitment to yourself to be there for yourself. If you've been listening, and when I talk about reparenting your inner child and those conversations, You have to create a habit of tenderness with yourself when you go through this process, because you're going to see things about yourself and you're going to have to take certain responsibilities that are going to make you want to turn away. You like, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to, that can't be, that I can't be the reason. It's not your fault. I'm going to be a meme right now, because I've read this online a lot of times and it's always true. And everybody always needs to hear it, including me. It's not your fault for what happened to you, but it's your responsibility to fix it. Because in some ways, we were the prey. We were powerless against our mothers, against our caretaker, but now we've become the predator. We now are treating ourselves the way we were treated. And I think that is something that we have to really, it's hard to own because nobody's coming to save us. As unfair as that shit is, no one's coming to save us, and no one can save you anyway. If somebody did try to come save you, they wouldn't know how to do it correctly. And then you would have to be so thankful for what they did do, but realize there's shit still left on the table that needs to be resolved. So you have to become your own hero. That is what it means to meet your own needs. You have to become your own hero. What are some practical steps to things that I did to start to meet those unmet needs? One of the biggest things you're going to have to do is create a habit of appreciation of who you are, because we are so fucking hard on ourselves. And as long as you're being hard on yourself, you are in the act of abandoning and rejecting yourself. I don't care how logical it is. I don't care how correct it might be. But as long as you are beating yourself up, you are in the act of perpetuating your needs not being met. And the most efficient way to change that is to create a habit of appreciation, and not an appreciation for the world, an appreciation for God, appreciation for your family, but the ways you can appreciate yourself. Making a list of all the things that you have done that are good, that do make sense. I don't care if it's just you making up your bed. I made my bed up today. That was so sweet. I made breakfast today. You know, I said I was going to drink 64 ounces of water. And you know what? I didn't drink 64, but I drank 44. That was a good job. You did good, girl. You wanted to come home and take a bath after a long day at work when you usually hop on the internet or trying to do something for somebody. But guess what? When you came home, you took the bath and you spent time with yourself. You need to come back and appreciate those things. They're not small things. And I think when we're doing this healing work, a lot of times we have like this big goal we want to accomplish. We want a man. We want a better job. We want more money. We want to stop being sad. And we want to jump into whatever the big goal is and having it complete. But this is a day by day, minute by minute work. It's almost like being an Alcoholics Anonymous. Like the thing is, I've been sober for one day. I've been sober for 2 days. I've been sober for 6 weeks. Then somebody might fall off the wagon and they got to start back over again. That is what this process is like, because you're undoing, I want to say just in your own lifetime, 30, 40, 50 years of this work, but really it's generational. Some of this stuff is built into our biology, and it takes time for us to undo it. And the only thing that's going to sustain you in the work is Thank you for watching this episode of The Black Mother Wound. I'll let you get back to it in less than 60 seconds. If you're listening to this show, then you've been struggling with the effects of the painful relationship with your mother. This is why I created Resolve. It is a 6-week group healing program for Black women who are finally ready to heal their mother wound, but need support, guidance, and a safe community to do it in. Whether you're struggling to accept your mother for who she is, trying to make peace with the past, or learning how to build a loving relationship with yourself, resolve is the answer. Imagine making decisions that are best for you without feeling guilty. What if you could finally trust and believe in yourself and begin living your best life on your own terms? These are just a couple of the ways Resolve can change your life for the better. If you're ready to start thriving in your life now, click the link below and sign up to get notified when the class opens in August. We really are all in this together. Tenderness with yourself. You are not going to be able to beat yourself up and punish yourself into this. Again, we're talking about unmet needs, patience, understanding, acceptance, grace, trust. These are things that you have to begin giving yourself, right? So let's take trust for an example. That was a really big one for me. I didn't trust myself. I didn't think that I made good decisions with money. Let's start with the biggest one, the biggest elephant in the room. So what did I do? I started budgeting. I got a spreadsheet. I wrote all my bills down. I put how much everything was going to be paid, when it should be paid, and I printed it out and I would track it. And I would make sure that I would pay things on time because I was notorious for paying my bills late. I grew up in a household where the bills were paid late. Even if the money was there, we're going to pay it late. And so creating a sense of integrity with myself and a habit of paying my bills on time and managing my money better taught me how to trust myself, which then gave me more confidence. And then guess what? If you're into alignment and manifestation, every time I would pay a bill on time, more money or more financial opportunities would come my way. Every time. And I really needed that because I had so much anxiety around taking care of myself. So go back to always say this, if y'all have been listening, you're only healing if your life is changing. And your life can only change when you take different actions. So healing is not just about sitting down and journaling and waiting for a full moon and waiting for Uranus to be in the third house and all that kind of stuff. You have to start taking really small actions to build up your life. These are the ways that you meet your needs. If you think about a child who's hungry and you say, well, if a child is hungry, how do I meet the need? You feed them. If a child is scared, how do you meet the need so they feel safe? You console them. You let them know you are safe. I've always kept you safe. I will continue to keep you safe. And it's not something that you do one time and it's over, because a child is always going to come to you and be afraid. And maybe they've had things happen in their life that caused them to be afraid. That is us. So to meet the need, you have to parent yourself. When I'm online and I talk about this on Instagram, the same question always comes back. What does it mean to reparent myself? What is it? And I think, parent yourself. But so often we were parented so harshly that it's like, my mother was a parent, but she wasn't tender with me. She wasn't patient with me. She didn't believe me when I said something. I was always assumed to be guilty. Well, when I say reparent, I mean in a healthy, loving, nurturing way. And that is the work. And it seems simple. Sometimes I feel like a broken record, y'all. Y'all know that because if you go back and you listen to the other episodes, I'm always talking about the same thing. But to start meeting your unmet needs, you have to start with a sense of appreciation. You have to start seeing the goodness in who you are, and it has to become a habit. It has to become a regular part of your everyday life. You have to start congratulating yourself, even for the small things, making it through a day at work without cussing somebody out. Lord, I did good today. You know what? I didn't gossip today. I was able to manage my emotions a little better today. You know what? I ate breakfast, I ate lunch, and I ate dinner. I tended to myself. Because food, clothing, and shelter are still important, because we will find ways to neglect ourselves and then look at somebody else and we want them to treat us well. You have to do the everyday work. It's like, I don't know who's old enough to have seen the first Karate Kid. When Daniel went to Mr. Miyagi and he wanted to learn karate because he was getting beat up by the white boy at school. And he was like, go out there and clean the car. Wax off. What he say? Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Boy, Daniel's son was pissed because every day after school, he would come there and all he was doing was cleaning damn cars. And he was like, I'm sick of this. This is not what I came here for. I came here to learn how to protect myself and defend myself. And so Mr. Miyagi hit him with the 1-2, and the boy Daniel threw his hand up and blocked it. And he was like, oh shit, I got it. And he began to understand what it means to create new habits and change your muscle memory. But he had to do it every day. Did he like doing it? Hell no, he didn't want to do that shit. He wanted to be somewhere watching cartoons, talking to girls, chilling. But this is work. Healing is not easy. Sometimes I feel bad because it's like, I feel like I'm sending y'all into like a battleground, but it's the only way. You have to go through the battleground to get to freedom. There is no other way. And many of us have tried everything else we could think of to make it through, to get to the other side. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's pandering to our mother and trying to get her approval. Maybe it's drugs. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's shopping. Maybe it's being on the internet. Maybe it's always hanging out. Whatever it is, we have tried countless things to get to the other side. And this really is the way. I harp on this because I come in contact with people who say they want to heal their mother wound, right? But they are not willing to do the work. They want to come and find a 10-minute fix, watching something I post online, or even just listening to this podcast. This podcast is for instruction. You can't listen and then go back and keep doing the same shit that you've been doing. You have to commit to this work. Right? And that can be really hard for us because many of us have never had anybody commit to us, commit to our betterment, commit to help us bring out the best in us. We've never had that. So it also can feel really triggering when we take on that task because it's like, am I even worth it? It almost feels abstract. Like, what does that even fucking mean to commit to myself? And it means to put yourself first, above all, no matter what, at all cost. And who are you? Who is it that you're putting first? You're putting first someone who deserves to be nurtured, who deserves to be cared for, who deserves patience, who deserves understanding, someone who deserves acceptance. And these are things we usually haven't gotten in our world. We didn't get them from our mother, and she taught us how to see the world. So then we met other people who didn't give them to us. We're like, well, what am I supposed to do? You have to turn inwards and you have to do this work. And it's not easy. If you want to know about the challenges of it, it's just doing it. The challenge is creating the habit of doing it. And then the secondary challenge is when you start doing it and you start making changes in your life and doing things differently, and people in your life don't understand. So now it has upset the apple cart because people say you've changed. You don't act the same. The things you used to do, you don't like to do anymore. You may have been the life of the party, or people always call you. And now you like, I'm doing this healing work, but this shit is lonely as fuck. You know what I'm saying? You cannot be deterred by that. I feel like this should be like, I need to be in the military with y'all. Like, y'all got to get in line, spit shine your boots, make your bed, crease your pants, get up every day, hail, sleet, snow, storm, and run it every fucking day. And the more you run it, the better you will get. And I guarantee you, you will then come into contact with other people who are running the same race with you. You will come into contact with people. Let me tell you about the benefit. Y'all want to know about the challenges. The benefits of meeting your unmet needs is you will meet people who will then start to also meet those needs. They will see how good you are to yourself, and they will know automatically that's how they want to treat you. They will want to be around you. Good people will want to be around you. Not people that want to take from you, but people who want to pour into you. People who see the best in you. People who uplift you. People who appreciate you. People who see you. People who accept you for who you are. They will start to gravitate toward you. Now, the only challenge becomes then is the shock of it all. The trigger that happens when you're not used to being seen in such a loving way, and how you have to learn to breathe through that. But let me tell you, sis, it is so freaking worth it. This is the work every day, in and out. I don't know how many more ways I can tell it to you, but listen. You see, I had a lot to say. I've been gone for a while. I'm glad to be back. You know that we are all in this together. You know that I'm only telling you what I know. This ain't something I read. This ain't something a bird whispered in my ear. This really is how you do it. I love you deeply. I'll see you next week. I promise. Please, if you are enjoying and you are getting value from this content, from this podcast, from this episode, please leave me a comment. Y'all always come into my Instagram and you leave me these amazing comments. Please comment. Please share it. Please leave 5 stars. It goes so far in building this platform, and I appreciate you guys so much. And of course, like I said in the beginning, if you're not on my YouTube, go there and subscribe, like, share, comment as well, so we can build this community over there. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for listening to the Black Mother Wound podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and make sure you comment, subscribe, and rate the show. You can keep the conversation going over on IG at Black Mother Wound, and click the link in the show notes to download the free Mother Wound Healing Guide. See you next week.